All right, we're at the cargo bay. So just got in my new Victron controller today. Trashing the Renogy one I had. This one is bigger than I need. I decided to go a little bigger. I could have probably gotten away with like 100 volt 50 amp. So that's what this is. It's saying basically that this can hold, or yeah, I guess hold up to 150 volts, right? Any more than that could potentially break this, and it can go up to 60 amps. I run my panels in parallel, which keeps your volts the same. So my volts right now, each panel is about 20 to 22 volts. So my volts are only 22, so obviously super safe there. But my amps will get added together, and each amp at peak is about 9 point something. 4, so that's 40. So I shouldn't be pushing any more than about 40-ish amps. So I could have gotten one that was 150. Unfortunately, they don't make like a lot of in-betweens. But I opted for this one just for one reason. That way I'm on the safer side of things no matter what. And two, I have potential room for a little bit of an upgrade if I wanted to. This one was quite a bit more though, to be honest. So the 150 was only like $100 and something, and this was like $300 or $400. So this was quite a bit of money. I kind of wish now though that I would have went for the next size up, which would be 670 amps, and I believe it's still I think it's still 150 for the volts if I remember right. But yeah, I wish I would have went for the 70 now, because it was only like 30, it was like 50 bucks more, maybe less than $100 more, which sounds crazy, but that way I would have been good no matter what. I don't think I'll get any more panels, because with 4 panels we're usually pretty good. We can run with no power at all, i.e. meaning no sun at all, for 3 days. And obviously I got some cleaning up to do in here because we unhooked everything. So once I run those wires in, they'll be basically coming through this panel right here. They're going to drop down into the RV right around that window is where I'm hoping to hit them. I'm going to get them to run across the wall and then the floor, and I'm going to get it to look nice. I got white tape for the inside, and I'm going to use some other trim pieces so you can't even see the wires in the inside. And then I'm going to cut a hole here, so then they'll go from here straight into the PV side. And then I run 8 gauge from here to the batteries, or really to my bus bars, and then from my bus bars to the batteries, or what have you, and inverter. So yeah, got a little bit more cleaning up to do in here. I also got a new fuse breaker. I had that cheap Chinese one before. It worked okay, but it was a hit or miss, to be honest. If it worked, it would trip sometimes when it shouldn't have. And decided to upgrade to a blue C1. They're a little bit more pricey, but well worth it, it seems like, for my research. And I got a 60 amp one as well, so it matches the amps on this. I could have went lower, but decided to go with the 60 amp. And then I also just ordered, and I'll get it this week, a on-off button. So basically I'm going to hook up the wire to the on-off and then to this. So if I ever want to work on anything in the panels, I'll just be able to switch it off without having to unhook. And the same thing with these is on the other side of this, from the bus bar to the inverter, I'm going to hook up that fuse, and that fuse will be able to also, it has a switch on it to where I could turn it off or on. So that way if I want to work on anything in here, or the batteries to the inverter side, I can just turn it off and I should be good to go. And these are my 2 lithium batteries. Each one holds 200 amp hours, and they're all usable because lithium I can go to 0. And here's my 712 unit. And this is just a cheap board that I was playing around with. I'm going to get a nice piece of wood from like Home Depot or Lowe's. and I'm going to mount everything onto that. And I'm not sure if I'm going to mount it to this because this is super thin and not very tough, or if I want to mount it to that. And obviously I would just mount it flat, and then I would have another piece on top kind of edging it in there, so that way it stands on its own. And I might just do that, because that way I wouldn't have to drill it into this, and yet it holds nice and flat. It would be thick, and that way if I ever change around anything, I'm not having to keep screwing stuff into this and mess this up. All right, on to the next. Alright, so here is my first attempt at just kind of seeing where everything would go on this board and seeing just how I want it laid out before I start screwing it in. So I actually went a little different than I originally thought. There is the Victron controller, so there's the wires that go through the wall in the previous video. We are now in the cargo bay. So I have that positive lead going over here to this breaker, or should I say this fuse, and then it goes into the controller. And the negative side just goes straight from the panels upstairs on the roof to there. And then we got this bus bar, so I got the positives going to that. I drilled some holes, so that positive goes to the batteries back there. I ended up stacking them on top of each other just to make it a little bit more cleaner. You can see that middle positive right there. That's going to actually be going to my inverter. And then here's some extra cords that go under the RV that connect all the electric inside the RV. And then that black negative lead that you saw going under the RV is just connected to the metal as a ground. So as you can see right there, we're at 13.9, which is at 100% for the batteries. And there's my little stunt for that gauge, so you can see exactly how much power you have. The only thing I haven't installed yet is that shutoff switch, which all I got to do is I got to cut the positive side on the inverter, attach it to one post that's in this box, and then run the other side positive back to that inverter. Not a super hard job. I just have been way too busy on other projects to kind of finish that one up, because that's just a nice thing to have. It's not necessarily needed in my case. And you can also see on that inverter, that little black box, that's going to be another fuse, just so in case there's too much electricity going to it. So you can see here's the two studs that you would hook up the cables to. So I think it looks a lot cleaner like this. The only other thing I would really like to do maybe is get a nicer sheet of wood, because you can see that's just a lot of extra wires right there. All that to the left I can take out, but get another sheet of wood and box this whole panel in from this right side. Okay, and this is where I'm screwing it all down. I'm doing a voiceover right now just because it's windy, but yeah, so see that gap? And I can go all the way over to the left side and make it its own compartment. And then all that extra wire, I could actually just put it behind the wall so you couldn't even see it, which would even make it look a hell of a lot more cleaner. But it's not bad. I think it looks pretty clean. It just has a lot of extra cords that I had to zip tie. That I didn't cut perfect. I wanted to make them like a little extra longer just in case. But yeah, that's the finished product in the cargo bay. And here's some finalized pictures of it. Hit me up, let me know if you have any questions. This is video 3 of my solar project for my RV.